in this segment. Meanwhile, joining us once again in the studio from the Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation, Bill Phillips. Bill, good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Richard.
Thank you for the time today. We've been kind of gravitating back in your direction to check in and see how things are going, and then we've been hearing a little bit about your organization as it relates to the city budget, and so here we are, catching up with you maybe a little faster than we intended. Here's the brief recap. The city is trying to figure out the coming budget, and in doing so, will dip into the reserve fund for somewhere around $500,000. And in the process of trying to sort that out, have said we want to cut back on what we give the Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation, and that has you trying to figure out how that will affect the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. When we get into periods like this, it's not easy for anyone, certainly not the city. I think if we had the chance to look at the city budget and all the moving parts of that, we would get a better appreciation of how tough a challenge that is. Recently the city has moved to a priority-based budgeting system, which is sort of a fundamental assumption in most budgets. You always look to see what your highest priorities and needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get past providing for all the essential services that a city must provide for the residents, then you get into these other areas, such as our funding. The difficulty for us is that we were really created 25 years ago when we joined the NeighborWorks America network. We were created and fashioned to be a service organization specifically to the city. There are a lot of linkages between our organization, the way that we're structured, and the city, and I think over 25 years, perhaps we've taken each other a little bit for granted. And so a part of the process that we're going through right now is to just kind of get reacquainted, and we have essentially a fresh administration at the city, and some of the institutional knowledge and experience that was built up over the years. We need to put a little TLC back into that effort and kind of revive everybody's understanding of the value that our organization brings into the community.
Yeah, you anticipate what I was going to ask, that maybe over time it's just a matter of forgetting what we're doing here.
Well, we all get so busy and a little bit tunnel visioned in dealing with the things that are on our plates on a day in and day out basis, and it's very easy to do. I have to admit I fall into that category quite often, and so over a period of years it's easy to understand. We have a very dynamic city government, both at the staffing level and at the city commission level, and it's very easy to lose sight of that. I mean, we stay in touch with the city and give an annual report at the end of each of our fiscal years as to what our activities have been, and I think a lot of that information we need to go back and revisit and see where the true value is, and the service that we provide residents in the community, especially for lower income residents, which is really the heart of our service and programs.
And we'll talk more about that in just a minute on WBCK 840. WBCK. Bill Phillips is here, Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation. We knew them once as Neighborhoods Incorporated. So the city has given the organization more in the past than it has recently, but the most recent concern is they're going to shut that pipeline off completely. That's, according to last year's amount, $150,000. How much of that is your full budget? What percentage of that?
Well, our budget varies year to year, just depending on the types of programs and the investments that we make in the community. I would say on average our budget is about $1,450,000.
All right.
So you're looking at roughly 10%.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, then, and in the past, we should say that the organization has received more from the city. It's scaled back and begun to rebound a little bit, but even 10% would mean you've got to scare that up some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's really two or three different considerations or impacts on us as an organization. One is just the sheer loss of the funding is the obvious first part of it. But to drill down a little more into the technicalities of it, anytime you support an organization, a charitable organization such as ourselves, we work with three different types of money. We have general operating funds that supports obviously the overall operation of the organization and everything that we do. Then we have program funds that are very specific to the types of programs that and services that we deliver in the community. And then the third type of money, which is a little bit unique to us, is we deal with investment capital. So we make investment in real estate, we make investment in mortgage loans to residents and so forth. So each time we have to scramble and go searching for that money, the first question is, well, what's the character of those funds? The relationship with the city was founded on the premise that the city could support us on a general level. In other words, embrace our entire bundle of services and programming and provide us is what we call in the business unrestricted funds, meaning we can apply that to operations and or programming as we need to. That is a very important part of our entire funding structure. About 17% of our overall budget is for general operations and resource development. And the 83% difference is specific to programming. So if we had substantial loss of funding in the unrestricted area that supports our general operations, that impacts our ability to sort of bridge the gaps between our other programs and is a huge loss. That type of funding is the most difficult for any nonprofit to find. So it has an impact far greater than just the pure dollar amount.
In terms of the programs that you provide, helping folks get mortgages who might otherwise find it difficult, helping folks maintain their homes who might otherwise find it difficult, et cetera, are we improving overall in this area? I mean, we've gone through a rough stretch here. Are the demands for your services steady, up, down?
Yeah, it's interesting because it has changed a good bit in the last 7 years. As we have come out of the downturn, we have seen shifts. We've seen shifts in demand in the core neighborhoods where we invest most of our funding and our time. We have seen a lack of certain types of funding and capital available to invest. We have been encouraged in the last year, and especially the last 6 months, because we were able to qualify and join the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, which is a very unique opportunity for an organization of our size and in a community of our size. This membership has brought, for example, a program from the FHLBI that allocates funding that we can grant into the neighborhoods for home repairs, for down payment assistance for first-time home buyers, and for accessibility modification and general home repairs for seniors and folks with permanent disabilities. So this is a very valuable program. If we were able to deploy all of the funds, we could bring as much as $1.1 million into the community that doesn't exist. As we've discussed back at the beginning of the year, Richard, I mean, we have remodeled the organization around the notion that we would return to a lot of the roots that were factored in when we were created, which is we really function mostly as a financial institution and with a obvious emphasis on community initiatives and development. So as we try to bring capital back into the community from outside the community, it's important because that leverages other efforts. The city, for example, gets money from HUD every year by formula for the CDBG program and the Home Investment Partnership. The funds that we have are able to to be used in conjunction with that to leverage it. So most recently in this FHLBI program, we've partnered with the city to try to access folks that are currently not able to get funding at the city because they've exhausted their CDBG funds for their home improvement program. So the money that we have available that we're processing applications for right now is over and above anything else that the city or anybody else in the community would be bringing in. And we think that's a huge value, and that's really a significant part of our focus going forward is how can we bring capital from outside the community into the community and for the benefit of everyone here. So,
fair amount of folks in nonprofit endeavors, and I've seen it when I've served on nonprofit boards, you joke about the notion that we're going to put ourselves out of business because we're going to solve this problem. Truth is that doesn't happen a whole lot.
Well, no, it doesn't. And you know, when we say those things, what we mean is we hope that we take care of the need.
Right.
Unfortunately for us, we don't see that need diminishing all that much. If anything, it continues. And really, when you look at all of the community activity and the community engagement work, especially the work that's been done in the last year and a half in the community, it can never have enough focus on the core neighborhoods, because those core neighborhoods that wrap the central business district, you know, we can talk about how important it is to improve downtown and to have a vibrant downtown and everything, but if we don't also give equal attention to the neighborhoods that surround the downtown, I would suggest to you that it's going to be a challenge to get us all to where we hope to be. So we have to raise everyone in the process. So that's why I'm bringing additional capital into the neighborhood, both for residential and to also support small business creation is very essential to how we go forward. So we view ourselves as right on the cusp of those essential services that we talk about at the city.
Bill Phillips is here from the Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation. Back in a moment on WBCK to talk a little bit more on this issue and how we go forward here now with this potential cut looming. That's in a minute. WBCK, another couple of minutes here with Bill Phillips at the Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation. So, City Commission has a vote in a couple of weeks, so there's been time to try and, I guess, calm down and figure out how to raise awareness or refocus the impressions of what it is the organization does.
Yeah, exactly. We actually had a meeting Tuesday of last week where we brought the city managers together with a couple of our key funders and also our national affiliate, NeighborWorks America, in our office. And that was the first time that we've done that, and I told them at the time, I said, I wish I'd have been smart enough to think about this sooner, but it was valuable to the group, I think, to put everybody in a room together, and they can hear each other say these things and talk about the levels of support and need in the community and so forth, rather than hear me continue to sing the same song. You know, I've said a couple of times I started to feel like the boy that cried wolf too much, but the reality is it was very valuable to do that. So I think we began to create a more of a shared understanding of the issues, and it was valuable to do that. And we've done some follow-up work and shared some information and continued to provide some data and thoughts about what the value of the organization is, just really as a reminder and an opportunity to kind of jog everybody's thought process and see if we can't move ourselves back up on that priority list.
Do you see there being more you can do ahead of that vote, or has that due diligence been done now?
I think the bulk of that's been done. I think the ball is back in the city's court now to see if we can be added back into the mix. I'm hopeful that we've been able to bring everybody's awareness and understanding back up to the levels that we need to have a good, productive relationship. And really a lot of the approach that we've taken here recently has been to let's look at the future, and let's also see if there isn't a more productive way to utilize us, that perhaps we've gone so far astray from the original intent that created us, that we need to kind of come back to our baseline and say, okay, we're a service organization. So instead of the conversation being how can the city help support us and leverage us, the context really ought to be how can we better use our organization to leverage the resources of the city. And to me, I think once we start thinking in that way, once again, I think we'll find a number of ways that we can increase the productivity of our relationship and leverage the city investment in us. So I think there's good value there, and it's just a question of bringing everybody back to a common understanding.
All right, we'll leave it right there, and we'll check in with you again. Thank you, Bill.
Richard.
Talk to you again soon. Bill Phillips, Southwest Michigan Community Development Corporation, 8:30.